Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 363. I really have got a great guest on the show at the present moment. I'm going to butcher his name, but he's going to be reasonably okay about it. Yeah, it's Yaro Starak. And Yaro, like to introduce yourself quickly to the listeners and viewers?
Sure. You didn't butcher my name. That was pretty good. Long-time online entrepreneur. So the very short version of what could be an almost 20-year story was got my start in Magic the Gathering cards back in the late 90s. And then that switched to an essay editing company in the early 2000s, which led to blogging and podcasting starting in 2005, the really early days of podcasting back then. That's been my sort of main claim to fame for since 2005 till now. I still blog and podcast. And then I also have a couple of other companies, Inboxdone, which is email management service, and a solar energy company in Ukraine, which is very random, but very exciting for me because it's quite different and obviously not online. So that's the very, very short version of what could be a 2-hour conversation, I think so.
I think so as well. And I've got my great co-host, Cindy Nicholson. Would you like to introduce yourself, Cindy?
Sure. Hi, Yaro. Thanks for coming on the show today. Hi, everyone. It's Cindy Nicholson from thecoursewhisperer.com. And I help people that are looking to put an online course together, help them put it together to make it good.
That's great. And I'm the founder of WP-Tonic, and we build and maintain and support learning management websites for e-learning entrepreneurs on the WordPress platform. Right, Yaro, I really didn't know where to start off because to say you've got extensive experience in this world of membership and online marketing would be a slight understatement. So what do you think if e-learning entrepreneur and they wanted to build a successful membership site, and that person came to you, what would be your initial advice about getting going and doing it in the right way?
Yeah, that's the golden question, isn't it? So membership sites and online courses have been my bread and butter income as a blogger for sure, and podcasting as well. It's been and still has actually been my largest source of income over the years, collectively, accumulatively, but also because I've done it for 12 years and had about 4 or 5 different courses over that time frame. To someone new, I would be saying, obviously, there's a combination of just the business fundamentals. What's your niche market? What are you helping them do? What's the problem you help them solve? And I'd also be asking them, what's your audience exposure like right now? What's your situation in terms of your personal brand or the technical things? How big is your email list? How big is your following? Do you have access to an audience that would be interested in what you're possibly, selling a course or a membership site on? I think more often than not, people who are already doing something in teaching, either like consulting or coaching, freelancing, I think that kind of person seems to then see a course or a membership site as a natural next step, predominantly to free themselves from, the paper hour kind of situation that they usually find themselves in, which is not bad. It's being your own boss. It can be great money, but at the end of the day, as I've been a proponent of this thing called the laptop lifestyle forever, and one of the main reasons I can be talking to you in Vancouver or, Ukraine, where my solar company is, or Australia, where I was born, or Hawaii, where I like to go, is the fact that those courses and membership recurring billing, goes into the bank account and makes new sales, regardless of where I am and whether I'm actually proactively trying to sell it. Obviously, that requires building a system behind it and having some sort of ongoing traffic source, a funnel, as we call it, email marketing and so on. But yeah, it's available, I think, to anyone who has a problem they can legitimately solve. And that to me is always where I'd like to guide them first. Look at the problem and how much money people currently spend to solve that problem. And then you can, go towards the nuts and bolts of the actual e-learning that you sell. But really that's, as you guys probably know very well, the setting up of a course, the delivering of membership content, while sure, there's a process there. That's why, people like yourselves exist. but it's, I would almost call it like it's a step-by-step process that's repeatable. The part that you kind of have to get right before all that is the market and the audience, the traffic. That's the hard part for most people. Although they get so caught up in what membership software should I use and how much should I charge and how do I create a module and all that sort of stuff, which is all fun, but it's way more fun when you've got customers ready to buy that stuff. So.
Before I pass it over to Cindy, I think you got to the crux of it, really. You've probably been asked this so many times. I often, no guarantee of originality, unfortunately, on this. Is got any insights about? Because I agreed with everything you said, but the thing is, how do you start building online audience?
How much time do we have to talk about that?
Well, I knew it was a ridiculous question, but I had to ask it, didn't I?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, everyone who probably comes in your podcast has a different background in this, and they'll say, I do Facebook ads, or I do press coverage, or I do organic social media. So I'll give you the answer that obviously that has worked for me, and a lot of the people I've worked with have benefited from as well, which is simply content marketing predominantly through blogging. Blogging's been and still continues to be my main source of audience. It's free. It's traffic from Google searches, finding blog posts I've written either last week or last decade. It could be that way. Obviously, if you're just getting started, that's a slower method. Like I wouldn't tell people you start a blog today, 2 months from now, you're going to have enough of an audience for a successful, course launch or membership site. So that's why people turn to paid traffic. But even that is an area where, I don't tell people to do paid traffic until they know they have a converting offer, because you can lose a lot of money trying to figure that out, just throwing, traffic at random offers. And there's a lot of very good copywriting and marketing and emails that needs to go into a good campaign. So often, depending on the skill level, the background, some people come to me and they already do have that personal brand. And I really like that kind of client because they're probably already blogging. They're probably already doing maybe YouTube or podcasting or all three of those, or being very active in Facebook groups or, LinkedIn, whatever it is. And they have some kind of audience. And then it's a case of, all right, how do we ramp this up? One of my favorites is, joint ventures. I don't do it nearly as much anymore, but during my early days, which is when you have much smaller traffic, finding one good partner or doing one good launch campaign. As my first course way back in 2007 was an affiliate backed marketing campaign. So, I brought my 2,000 RSS subscribers back in the day of RSS and blogging, plus my 2,000 or so email subscribers, and launched this course. But I also had Darren Rouse and, you might know some of these other names, Jeremy Shoemaker, John Chow. There's a lot of kind of old school bloggers from about, internet marketing. And Brian Clark from Copy Blogger. So a lot of people promoted what I think probably at the time was the first ever course on how to make money blogging. And, half my sales, maybe a little less than that, certainly a lot of my email subscribers came from those people all promoting, endorsing as an affiliate, the free resources I was giving out. So I think a launch campaign, a bit more of an advanced technique, but even on a smaller scale, finding one partner to do a joint venture with who will do maybe, a webinar with you or run a Facebook challenge with you, or even just send a few emails promoting whatever free resource you have, that can double, the size of your audience exposure within a week. It's such a powerful source of traffic. So I like kind of a combination of grassroots content marketing that's long-term. So let's build some great blog posts, pillar articles, as I'm known for teaching that concept, but also to get those jumps in traffic, let's look for partnerships or opportunities to, get maybe on television or get, some kind of press coverage, guest article, show up on a podcast interview, or several, try and get one a week. So it's kind of a combination of those sorts of elements, but, it hasn't changed. That's the irony. I've been answering this question since about 2007 as well. And okay, Snapchat didn't exist back then. YouTube wasn't just getting started back then, but the answer hasn't changed. You still go to where traffic is and try and get your face or your voice there. Plus, do some content so you start getting some Google traffic organically as well. Or you got money to burn. Back then it was Google ads. Now it's Facebook ads or Google ads or Twitter ads or Snapchat ads, et cetera, et cetera.
Cindy?
I appreciate you saying that, Yaro, just from the perspective, because a lot of bloggers, when they first start out, they are really, they slug it alone, right? They keep trying to, maybe I just need to put out more content, put out more content, and they don't recognize the opportunity of other influencers out there that might be help support them in building the traffic to their site. So I really appreciate that, because I think that a lot of people think if they just work harder, then it'll come to them, but they need to be a bit more strategic about it.
Yeah, no magic bullet, that's for sure.
Exactly. So I because you've been in this business for so long, I just am curious as the evolution of online courses, like where have you come from and where do you see kind of online courses going in the future? Because you really have that deep perspective. So I'd be interested in your thoughts.
So funny. I remember being asked this sort of 2008, 9, 10, 11. And there was this whole idea that information's getting more and more free as time goes by. So we need to expect the course we create and sell now for $300 will be the course we create and give away as a way to just grow our audience. And then we'll probably charge money for in-person workshops or more live-based marketing, live webinars with you, because that's the only thing that people will still value and pay money for, is that kind of face-to-face interaction. But that hasn't really borne true. I mean, people were saying that, and I think there's an element of truth to it in the sense that over time, there has been a need for more and better free content and more specialized free content in order to build that niche audience that you like. You can't just possibly write one blog post a week and Google will reward you. Now it's, you do have the social media part of it. And you do have to really be specialized. Otherwise you'll just drown in all the noise out there. But man, since then, masterclasses come out. There's so many of these different platforms have risen that charge money for information, for courses, for education. And I haven't seen that perform any worse than I think it's performed a lot better. I think the market's increased. So going forward, if I'm going to put my prognosticator hat on and guess the future of this, my default answer would have been, well, more information is going to be free and you should be prepared. But I'm not sure if that's the case. What I am unsure of is the format of education and how we consume content and where that's going. I don't know. I mean, I get asked like, will blogging disappear? And obviously, unless we change the way we consume the written word, we have yet to do that. And I can't see virtual reality changing it. We're still going to prefer to read a flat page of text. Sure, we might be more interactive with our video content, but again, that even YouTube hasn't replaced books or blogs. It's just kind of more of everything. And I think that's the real lesson. I don't think anything's disappearing. I think we're just adding more and more. And so there'll be more platforms still coming, whatever the next social media app will be, or whatever technology comes along. We'll probably be using fridge apps, and the television will be our kitchen table as well. So there'll be places like that where we'll consume the content. So the only real, I guess, consideration for people listening to this is don't worry about the format disappearing. What's going to happen is if you're feeling overstimulated with options, that's just going to continue to grow, and there'll be more and more places for you to publish content. So in order for people like ourselves, who want to be kind of thought leaders in a small niche, we really need to be on top of a very nice, laser focused part of an industry. And that's the truth for anyone entering now too. Back when I started, I could just throw any advice how to make money blogging generically. And now if people, read about the basics like that, it just sounds like 100 other articles they can find and they probably come across. So things that allow you to separate yourself from that are the big tasks. Writing a book makes you a bit more credible. Who you've helped, what's your client base. I found it really interesting to watch, for example, Lewis Howes. You probably both know him, how he came from a pretty typical internet marketing background. Podcasting took him to slightly more mainstream, book releases also help. Boom, he's on Ellen, then he's entering total mainstream, Facebook television show, on the cover of magazines, right? So that's a good example of a person who's kind of emerged as a one of many, but managed to use, those platforms to really, grow a much larger audience. And we're not all going to do that, but I think the message of what he's doing on a smaller level, we can all do. We do want to appear on a niche podcast like I'm doing right now. So I have one of my clients who is in the dissociative disorder niche, which is multiple personalities. So as you can imagine, not as much competition online as what we talk about in this whole world of internet marketing, but there's still health podcasts she can appear on, which she's started to show up on now. So, anyone with that condition who starts Googling, first of all, comes across the blog that she's been writing for a decade, full of content to help that kind of person. Now she's starting to build that personal brand, podcast interviews. She's got a membership site and courses, and that's how she makes her money. So it's a good example that this stuff is all happening across the board in all industries. We just all have to be very, especially if we want to be the face of our business. Of course, not everyone does. I mean, my new business, while I am pushing it as Yaro, it's an independent brand. It's meant to be much bigger, and I don't sell me. I sell an idea and a problem-solving solution, and I access my existing audience. But that's just because it's low-hanging fruit. The company itself, it's not Yaro, so I don't need to go out there and sell that. I sell the idea of what the company does. So it's the principles kind of don't really change, but I want to put that out there because some people hearing this might be going, well, I don't want to be on Ellen. I don't want to go on the front of magazines. I don't want to, get out there and be on podcasts all day long. It's not my thing. I just want to have a good, thriving company. So, the same principle is just you have to understand what you're selling or what you're positioning in that case.
Yeah, I think that's really true in terms of, I think the because you have access to so many people, to be really specific and clear as to who you help, and to be the face or the expert in that field allows you to attract people to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
I think that's great. We're going to go for our break, folks. We'll be back, and I think it's been a great interview so far, and I'm sure it's going to be even greater when we come back. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. Yeah, it's been fantastic. But before we move forward, I just want to quickly mention one of our great sponsors, and that's Kinster Hosting. And Kinster Hosting has been supporting the show for the past year and a half. The WP-Tonic website is hosted on Kinster. They are big enough to provide all the bells and whistles you're looking for, but small enough to still care about you. Staging site, latest version of PHP, 24/7 support, real expert support. They use the Google Cloud as their platform. Fantastic interface. I can't praise them enough. So if you're looking for a quality WordPress host, go to kinster.com. So, yeah, I think one of the things that's always impressed me with your career is that you're in a sector, and it might be because I'm English. I've lived in America now for almost 10 years. There's a certain I'm trying to find the right words here. There's a certain type of online marketing guru or expert that I find rather nauseating. And I've noticed that you've never really, that's not your bag, really. You've never tried to do that. You seem a very different style, but you're super efficient. And you know what you're talking about. Was that a conscious decision, or was it just that it just wasn't you, this kind of...
It's all in the eye of the beholder, Jonathan. I think I have been, I've had replies to email campaigns and things that will, what you're alluding to, I guess, is that sort of over hypey type of sales and marketing that can go on. And back in the day, and even today, large sales page, huge red fonts, pictures of checks. It's kind of like the Ty Lopez effect of today with doing a video in front of your cars and walking around your mansion, right? It's that, look at me and this is how great my life is. And the idea that we can never deny is that does generate a certain sense of desire within human beings, and that can then lead to sales of your products. So the way I've always looked at this, there's like a virtual dial for your marketing, right? And you can spin it as far to the right as you want to put the sales talk to a certain degree of hypiness, right? And everyone has what they personally feel is acceptable, is how far they'll go. And then, of course, your entire audience also has their own position on that. So I did, I guess, grow up in Australia where it's not as, it's more, there's that tall poppy syndrome. I mean, you're not supposed to stand out. That really didn't affect me too much. I think more because I'm more, it's kind of an ironic thing. I'm introverted and I grew up shy. So I wasn't looking to stand out. But then the medium of the internet with blogging and podcasting allows a person like myself to feel comfortable because you're by yourself most of the time, working away. And when you publish a blog post, it doesn't feel like there's a large audience there potentially reading it and you're getting well known. And that can hopefully happen, as it happened to me. And sure, I, kind of on the surface, it looks like I'm deliberately pushing myself out there and, getting that kind of exposure, but I didn't feel that way. So when it came to doing sales and marketing, I was adamant about doing what I needed to do to sell products and services. So I studied copywriting. I studied, Jeff Walker's product launch campaigns. And, Jeff Walker's a great example because you take Frank Kern, you take Jeff Walker. I know people who hate Frank Kern because he always sounds like he's selling nothing and it's just hype. And then Jeff Walker, they're friends, they're in the same market, but he has his more down-to-earth kind of way of talking. And I always felt more connected to Jeff than I did to Frank as a personality. So I learned more from Jeff than I did Frank. But I know some people who just love Frank because they learn so much tactically from him, and they don't find him over the top either. So I really do feel it's in the eye of the beholder. But I think the best answer to your question for the benefit of the listener is I went with what I was getting the results I wanted from and what felt within the comfort zone, I guess, of my personality. So yeah, I definitely felt my writing was and is transparent. I love transparency as a marketing tool. So I think telling stories from your own life, in my case, telling stories from my businesses over the years has been my best marketing tool because, I did something, this is what I did, learn from what worked for me. Then people like you and they want to learn more from you. So that's worked fantastically. And it works for every niche, just like, Kathy, my client, teaching how to, get help with dissociative disorder. She's helped other people so she can, she can't give away personal details, but she can give away advice that's worked for people. And that's always the most helpful advice, really practical stuff. Now, how far you hype that, it's often a factor of you personally, but also what people expect in your industry. If you're selling, say, cola drinks, if you're not doing Coca-Cola style marketing or something clever along those lines, you're kind of just holding back, it might not work. Same with sort of, business and marketing in this kind of world. It's on one level, it's super hyped, the Ty Lopez kind of side, but in a lovely twist of circumstances, you can go counter that. And I'm a big fan of counterintuitive marketing, where you take what is the accepted practice in marketing in an industry and deliberately go against that. One of my favorite examples from the weight loss industry, I remember one of my very, very early mentors talked about, his name was Rich Sheffrin, and he would say, this is an example of counterintuitive marketing. If everyone is, they know and expect you to go out there and say, lose weight by eating less and exercising more. But if you go out there with your marketing campaign and say, I know a way for you to lose weight by exercising less and eating more, people are like, okay, that's not what I've heard from everyone else. What's going on there? And I think certainly maybe what you're alluding to with the way I've projected myself as this kind of transparent, down-to-earth person, depending on what materials you read of mine, of course. I've had long-form sales pages with red fonts over the years too. But I've kind of looked at times as a counterintuitive personality or style of marketing to a Ty Lopez, or maybe back in the day, you might remember the Rich Jerk. He had some, no one knew who he was, but he had some crazy copy in internet marketing, and certainly Frank Kern and, all kinds of people back in the day. But it depends what you're looking at. I mean, you probably know Pat Flynn, and some people love how down to earth he is, but then some people will start going, well, he's using the same marketing techniques as Jeff Walker did for some of his stuff. So it's eye of the beholder. You really can't, you can't please all the people all the time, right? So that's all you can do.
Not true, Cindy.
So that's so true in terms of, I think, especially if you're going to be putting yourself out there, you really just want to decide who you want to be and who you're most comfortable being, because if this is a long-term endeavor, you want to make sure that you can be consistent with that. So I think that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And if you feel uncomfortable, that's a good sign that maybe you're not on path with what you're doing,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I actually want to just kind of transition into one of your current businesses, your Inboxdone business, because obviously you see that there's a problem out there that needs to be solved, and you think that you obviously feel that there's a huge opportunity there. So what is the problem that Inboxdone is solving, and what can we do about it in order to get better about it?
Yeah. Well, I can connect the dots. So right from very day one with my online career, I was not necessarily hoping to, really hustle hard, grow a startup company, and then exit for millions of dollars. It was more, how do I get an income stream that allows me to sort of travel and have that kind of freedom? And, online courses and membership sites are great for that, as I mentioned earlier. But even before that, with my essay editing company, that was the sort of first, as Tim Ferriss would call it, a 4-hour work week muse kind of business, where I was attempting to create something that generated an income stream and somehow separate myself from the generation of that income, right? And that's not easy when you're doing it for the first time. But I was following a good business model. I was hiring contractors to deliver editing services. My job was actually forwarding emails all day between the editors and the customers, students at universities usually. And one day I was in Sydney, just traveling down there. I didn't live there. And I found myself all day, when I was supposed to be doing something else, forwarding emails and constantly checking the inbox. So when I came home, I'm like, if I want to break free from this company, bearing in mind this is before 4-hour work week, so I'd like to say I was ahead of Tim Ferriss, but I needed to stop doing email was the short answer. I think a lot of entrepreneurs know once they kind of become successful, and you guys might do this. I don't know how many emails, how much time you spend on your email right now, Cindy and Jonathan, but I was doing that a lot. So I hired a stay-at-home mom, trained her, went through that experience of, can I trust someone to handle these emails, in my business? And that turned out they could even do a better job than me, because they could spend their working hours on just that task and go and chase customers for me and do better customer service for me. So I woke up the following Monday after the training was all done, and I logged into my business email, and the inbox was empty. And I was like, what do I do with my life now? Because this company is completely outsourced. And strangely enough, because of all the time I had, I became a blogger and a podcaster. So in a lot of ways, if it wasn't for that company and, outsourcing the email and building that business, I would have not had the time to write as much as I did to grow a blog and then start doing podcasting interviews as well. So from that point, which was a long time ago now, I continued, no matter what business I had, the blogging business, I had a person doing my email. I've even had sometimes 2 or 3 people doing the email. So I have 24-hour customer support. And a couple of years ago, I was talking about this, similar to what I just said to you guys. I said, I only check my email about once a month. And I was saying this to a group of entrepreneurs at a networking event. And they all go, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't compute for most people. How do you only check your email once a month? And I say, well, someone else does it. And then there's a few emails that only I can do, and I do those once a month. And that's how it works. So I realized from the faces on the entrepreneurs that maybe this is a need in the marketplace. So I ended up partnering with my co-founder, Claire, who actually did my email for 2 years as one of my email team. And we launched the service, which, as you mentioned, is called Inboxdone. And we've been growing steadily. It's about 1.5 years now since we launched that. Got quite a few clients. We got a team now managing the inboxes of people. And it's been a fantastic spin-off. A lot of my companies, that's for certainly the most successful ones, as you can sort of hear, there's always a connecting thing from, my essay company, building a system, hiring a person, lets me do blogging. Blogging lets me create online courses. And then I meet, a person working with that company that allows me to transition or start another company in this email management. So I love doing that. There was a time in my life where I thought maybe I'm just a writer and not an entrepreneur. I started as an entrepreneur, but now I realized both. It's nice to be both, right? So and that's the company we run right now. And it's for the right people. I mean, I don't know who's listening to this and what stage they're at, but if you are at a situation in your business where you find yourself getting up in the morning and spending 2 hours in email, or going to bed at night and spending 2 hours in email, and you're not seeing your family or not taking holidays because of that, or you're working on your email on your holidays, it usually sounds good, especially good to a certain person when they say, check my email once a month. If that sounds good and you've got a business, then yeah, that's who we help.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine you would have got a few eyebrows raised with the checking the email once a month.
Well, how often do you guys do your email? What's email like in your lives?
Cindy?
You see, this is almost like, how many drinks do you have at night, right?
Not a good example to be looking at, but yeah, like my inbox is always open all day long, so not a good strategic way to work, I don't think. Jonathan?
I wouldn't say I was quite as bad as Cindy. I deal with email in the morning. My outreach, my podcast, and everything's done in the morning. Afternoons, I do client work, or mostly I'm a project manager. And then at night, I will check my email again. So I'm not checking it all the time because I had to restrict. I'm pretty easy to get hold of. To book a Zoom with me is pretty easy, but it's got to be on my schedule, because otherwise it got totally out of hand, basically, and it got crazy, basically. So without hiring your, but I think it's a fabulous service, absolutely fantastic idea. I wish I'd thought of it myself, but there we go. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, folks. Yaro's really been kind enough to agree to stay on. And you'll be able to see that on the WP-Tonic website with the full set of show notes, and on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. We're getting more followers for that. Yeah, what's the best way to find out more about you, what you're up to, and your words of wisdom?
I had a recent domain name change, just Yaro, YARO.blog, or just Google Yaro. There's not a lot of Yaros doing what I do, so you can find it by YARO, podcast and blog and email newsletter. That's the best way to follow me, or social media, of course, as well, Instagram and Facebook. And
Cindy, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
Yeah, if you've got a course in mind, you can find me at thecoursewhisperer.com, or you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Right, that's great. Before we go, folks, we're going to be doing a free webinar on the 31st of January at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you'll be, if you join us live for the webinar, we're going to be offering a couple of great prizes, a free download to everybody that attends the webinar. The webinar is going to be the 7 essential things that you need to know to start a successful course. And basically, also one person is going to win 1 year free support maintenance WP-Tonic plan with a value of almost $700. I'm going to be giving that at the end of the webinar to a person that's still live with us. And like I say, if you want to register for that, go to WP-Tonic/webinar and you'll be able to register there. we will be back next week with another great guest and another great interview. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. Hopefully I didn't balls that up too much. There we go. So what I'd like to ask you about is about Inboxdone. Is with your co-founder, what was your business plan? Who initially was your target audience, really?
Yeah, so I actually teach sort of a methodology called services arbitrage. It's been born from that essay editing company, it started in 2001, so a long time ago. But the basic idea back then, I kind of stole it from eBay and made a little twist. I was thinking, I want to build a company that can grow without me, so I need to connect. In eBay's case, it was a many-to-many business, many sellers of products to many providers of products, and you're the middleman or woman, and you take a slice and away you go. So I kind of tried to do that with Better Edit, which is the editing company, by hiring contract editors to deliver the service. And then we, through very much a learning process for me, narrowed down the target audience to students. Before that, it was business editing, student editing, resume writing, language translation, was all over the place, but eventually students became the target audience. So I kind of learned everything there in terms of how to sell services. So when it came to the last couple of years with Inboxdone, the business model was very much set. We knew, we'd be hiring contractors. We're going to, build a brand, build a business that allows us to succeed. It allows us to actually, I should clarify, we tested this. So the kind of basic idea is Claire and I came to Claire and said, listen, this might be a business. You have the skills to deliver it because you've been doing it for me. So we can get a test client. And I call it a minimal viable service as opposed to an MVP from the startup world, so an MVS. So we want to find 1 or 2 test clients. And obviously, lowest hanging fruit opportunity was to go to my existing audience. And this is, why I say everything I've done kind of in certainly the last decade or so is come somehow from blogging. Because no matter what business I do, it's like, let's go to the blogging audience and see if we can launch a business there, So if I didn't have the blog, I wouldn't have my email list, or, if I didn't have the podcast, I wouldn't have my email list. So I couldn't go and say, hey, let's test this idea. Send an email. We say, we're thinking of launching a company. We're going to do your email for you. Is there anyone interested in doing that? It'll be my team. Same people look after my email. We'll be looking after yours. And let's see who sticks their hand up. Now, at that point, obviously, I know my audience is either people getting started with an online business or those who already got an online business. So it certainly was small business entrepreneurs as a target market for the test. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, why can't we help real estate agents and anyone who's got email, which is the entire planet of working class people, all have email, but you never want to go after the entire planet. That's way too broad a campaign. So we did that test, and we had 2 people stick their hands up and said, yeah, we want to try this out. Now, at that point, not only were we figuring out, who we're selling to and what we're selling, it's how much can we charge to make a profit for this service. What do they want? How many hours do they need with this help? Can we deliver it? Is it possible that we can take my system from helping my inbox and apply it to Jonathan's and Sydney's and everyone's inbox? So I really am a huge fan of that kind of a test, get a customer, learn what they want. And even if it's talking about building a course, don't assume what should be in the course. Help someone. That's why I love people who first come to courses having been a coach or a consultant, because they've already coached people and they know what the people want and they can build a course around it. Same thing here. I knew what I benefited from and how I outsourced email. So we had this system we could take to other people. And that's what we did with the test. And the test went well. And that's what led to officially kind of launching the business. And, to be fair, no website before that. We literally sent an email to my database to say, does someone want this service? Got on a phone call with them. They said yes, and we started the test. From there, of course, build a website, get some testimonials from our 2 test clients, write the copy, do a video, all that stuff started happening, start the marketing campaign to get our second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and so on clients. But that's in terms of like going back to your question though, we're at the point we're at right now, I'm still exhausting, I guess, the audience I already have. Plus search traffic brings in an audience as well. And it's been entirely small business owners who have said yes. There've been a couple of people who've shown interest, but haven't been in the situation to do so, to hire someone. But often they've been like working a job. So if they're going to pay, $1,000 a month for someone to handle their email, it's coming out of their salary. And it just, for that person, unless they can convince their boss to pay, at an executive level, sure. At a lower level at a company, it's not going to be the right target audience for us. But, we love helping small business owners because, Cindy, what if we said we can take all that email off your hands right now? What would you do instead with that time, right? So as a business owner, you can get huge leverage. You can go build a course instead of answering your emails, right? So it's a sweet spot for us small business owners.
Cindy.
Yeah, so this kind of, when you're talking about the target market and everything, I think, well, again, I'm not exactly sure what people have reservations about handing over their email, but I imagine one of them is that that no one could do it as good as I could do it. So I wouldn't want to give up that kind of control of somebody else, dealing with my emails. So what is your response to that in terms of helping people feel okay with giving up that control?
Yeah, I went through it too. I made my entire income from this inbox, essentially. All the transactions went through it. So I was like, if someone screws this up, I'm going to pay my rent, So it's surprising actually how easy it ends up being once you've just gone through a training period. So we do a 30-day training period, which we have to do because we got to learn about your inbox. We got to learn about how you currently reply. But what's also great about that is you are interacting with the person who's taking over your inbox. They're asking you questions. You're seeing how they reply. And we don't start replying to people. We write drafts initially. And then you would go in and say, okay, the draft needs to be changed here. And then you send it. We learn. And then eventually we get to the point where you tell us, all your drafts have been great. Now you can send directly to my people and I'm happy. Of course, there's some people who say, I always want to do this 5% of emails because, I have to. Maybe it's the high level client closing, you want to be the one closing a deal. But sometimes, you're surprised. You can hand over a lot to someone because, as I said earlier during the interview, when your job is only to do the email, you start to see patterns, you build systems, what kind of replies lead to better responses. And that's not something the business owner should be doing. You should be, creating the products, building the relationships, guiding the team. The email person should be the one in there, learning that, building that knowledge base, getting the empathy, because this is what I loved. I remember when I had this for my blogging business, selling online courses, we get people asking a question, and a common one is, hi, Yaro, if I buy your course, and I'm going to cover this topic with my business, do you think it'll work? Right. And that's the sort of question that you get often enough, you start to reply and you kind of realize, there's a little bit of understanding you need strategically to guide that person and give them the awareness to understand that there's no answer we can give that will say yes or no, because we don't know their market. But if you keep answering that question, you start to almost like they almost become a coach as well, because my email person starts studying my materials, and same with you. Like, we put someone in your business, Cindy, they would study your website, they'd study any of your training programs, they'd go through your course as well, assuming it was necessary, so they can start to really represent your methodology, your ideas, your strategies, and your training, and they see the feedback. That's what you no longer need to sort of be the person who's always checking every email. And I'll be honest with you, the problem is not trusting someone to take over your inbox. That actually, as I said, usually is not too much of an issue because you see them doing the work, you see it's good. What the problem is letting go of something that you've been doing for so long. It's like you've got to give up, drinking or sugar or something like that, because there is a mental high we get from checking our email. It's like Facebook and social media. We want to see that ding because, hey, maybe it's a sale or maybe it's a potential customer, and that gives us a sugar rush, right? So we have had a few of our clients where we have to say to them, stop doing our job. Otherwise, you're never going to break free from this. And it's actually a big challenge. And it is. I would say it's the number one. Email addiction is the number one challenge. We had one client who didn't get through the training period because they were like, I can't let go of knowing, like they wanted to know everything going on in their company. And the only way to do that was to continue to spend hours a day checking the email, even if it meant 90% of those emails were like software update notifications. They wanted to know they were getting them. I don't know. Personally, that blows my mind. I'd rather not know about everything going on in my inbox. So, but that takes some time to really get to that high level of awareness, in my opinion. So,
yeah, and I imagine that part of it too is like, well, if I don't have email to do, then gee, I have to go and do other work. Like email is almost like an easy escape to pass some time so that you can make yourself feel like you're working. Right. Whereas if you get that off your plate, it's like, oh shoot, now I have to do the real work that I've been avoiding for so long. So.
Which is usually the work that grows your business. It's like creating products and new marketing campaigns, connecting with people who can grow your business. So I'd almost say that, your business might not be growing because you're too busy getting a false sense of progress by doing your email every day.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that one. Jonathan?
Yeah, just a wrap-up question. So with Inboxdone, what's the one thing that you've learned or envisioned that's come up that it's been a bit of a surprise?
I'll actually answer that by what we just talked about. The addiction is way stronger than I thought. That would probably be it. I think I'm not surprised by this, but I still kind of laugh at it internally that I built a new business on the oldest technology on the internet. The fact that we're still, I would argue that maybe besides social media, maybe even not, I would almost say email is probably the biggest productivity killer for most people with their business or their job. It's the time they spend doing low value activities, filing, deleting, and doing replies to messages that ultimately make no dent in their business or their life. And but there is that feeling of, I got to do that. I've just got to, because I got an inbox, it's full, it's jobs, right? So I think I'm surprised that at this day and age, considering email was probably certainly the first tool I used online, was email, bulletin boards, news groups. Those were the sort of, and flat websites back in the late 90s. And yet we're here still doing it. And it's still one of the most important tools we have for communication. It's one of the most important tools for marketing. So I'm not really surprised by it, but I guess on some level, it kind of goes back to that question about where do we think the future is going? Like, do we think email will ever not be part of our lives on the internet? I don't know. Probably not. I'm sure we'll have some kind of, maybe it'll be a holographic display, but we'll still type in our answer and send it. So I don't know. But that's been surprising. That and email addiction, those two have been an old thing that we're addicted to.
Not I was going to say some of my girlfriends said that. I rather know, but there we go. I apologise, listeners and viewers. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. It's been a blast, actually. Thank you so much. Listeners and viewers, we're going to end the bonus content now. Like I say, we've got another great interview, got another great guest next week. And we'll see you soon. Bye.